Whispers by the Grave. Part 2. The days that followed blurred. Caleb moved through them like a ghost. He ate because he had to, slept when exhaustion forced him, but his thoughts remained anchored in that grave, the letter, the whispers, the name they had learned. He avoided the mirror. He kept every light on. He didn't return to the cemetery, but they didn't need him to anymore. Whispers began following him. At first, he thought they were dreams, but then they started when he was awake. In the hallway, in the attic, beneath the shower spray. Whispers from the walls, the vents, the floors, always just outside the edge of hearing, until one night they weren't. He was brushing his teeth when he saw her again. Not in the mirror this time. She was behind the curtain of the shower, not moving, not blinking, just standing there. Wet hair, hollow eyes. A whisper trickled out from between her blackened lips. He promised us silence. But you woke us. Caleb dropped the toothbrush and ran. He didn't go back to his room that night. He slept on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes on the hallway, lights on. When morning came, he questioned everything. Was he losing his mind? Had grief and fear and isolation cracked him open? But the photo he found that morning erased all doubt. Tucked under the front door, half frozen from the morning frost, was a Polaroid. His house, taken from across the street. A single figure stood in the upstairs window. His grandfather. But Samuel Ryden had been buried for nearly 2 weeks. That afternoon, Caleb returned to Agatha's shack. He didn't care if she was mad. He didn't care if the whole town thought she was dangerous. She was the only person who knew what was happening. She was already waiting outside when he arrived, crouched low beside a tree, whispering to the dirt like it was whispering back. When she saw him, she smiled, not kindly. "You've heard them." Caleb nodded. "They know me." She stood slowly, bones cracking, and motioned him closer. "I will show you something," she said, "but you must not speak, not a word." He followed. Behind her shack was a trail barely visible through the brush, marked only by scraps of old cloth tied to branches. It wound through the trees and ended at a clearing. There stood an old stone circle, overgrown with moss, ringed with worn symbols carved into each rock. Agatha knelt in the center. "This is where the first silence was broken," she said. "Before your time, before your grandfather's time." She reached down and dug at the soil with her bare hands. From beneath, she pulled out a small object, an old cracked ceramic mask with empty eye holes and jagged teeth painted in red. "They wore these when they cooled them," she whispered. "They thought it would protect them. It didn't." Caleb knelt beside her. "Who are they?" he asked softly, breaking his promise. Agatha didn't scold him. She just looked at him, long and hard. Spirits forgotten by time, buried not in graves, but in silence, left to rot beneath memory. She handed him the mask. "They've waited too long. You opened the door. Now they will walk." Caleb stared at the mask. It was cold in his hands, despite the sun. It smelled of dirt and something deeper, something sour and ancient. "What do I do?" Agatha laughed bitterly. "You survive. If you're lucky." That night, Caleb dreamed of the mask, but this time he wasn't wearing it. They were. A dozen faceless people in a circle around him, each with cracked masks, chanting in a language he didn't understand. One of them reached out and touched his chest. He looked down and saw his skin splitting open like dry bark. From within, pale fingers clawed out. He woke up screaming, and in the corner of the room, the real mask, the one from the clearing, sat upright on his desk. He had left it in the garage. At school, things got worse. He saw flashes, figures in windows, shadows under desks, faces that weren't there when he turned. He stopped going altogether. Jonah came by one day and found Caleb curled up in the hallway, mumbling to himself. "You need help, man," Jonah said, voice low, scared. "This isn't grief, this is something else." Caleb looked up, eyes bloodshot. They follow me. Who? Caleb's lips trembled. My grandfather. Jonah didn't laugh. He just sat there, silent. Then he said, My mum told me something. What? That your grandfather, when he was young, he and 3 other men dug up an old grave in that cemetery, some dare or some ritual. No one talks about it now. But one of the men disappeared a week later. The second went blind. The third never spoke again. Caleb's breath caught. And your grandfather? He refused to speak of it, ever, burned all his journals, started sleeping with salt around his bed. Salt. Protection. Agatha had never mentioned that, but maybe she thought it was too late. That evening, Caleb spread salt in a wide circle around his bed, then around every door, every window. The whispers didn't stop, but that night, for the first time, they didn't come close. The next morning, he found footprints in the salt by the window, but not human ones. Thin, long, like a bird with fingers. He returned to Agatha. She's waiting for you, the old woman said before he could speak. By the tree, the old one, where the roots drink blood. Caleb knew the tree. It leaned above the oldest section of the cemetery, twisted, blackened by time. He went there just before sunset. And she was waiting, not Agatha, his mother. But she was wrong. Too still, eyes too dark, skin too pale. I've missed you, she said. Caleb stepped back. You're not her. She smiled. No, she said, and her voice changed. It deepened, became layered, like dozens of voices speaking at once. We are many. The ground beneath Caleb's feet began to tremble, graves cracked, soil shifted, and from the earth hands began to rise. The dead had begun to rise. Not fully, not like movies. There were no skeletons clawing out of the ground, no zombies dragging broken limbs. But the hands were real. Caleb stood paralyzed in front of the crooked black tree as fingers, pale, narrow, twitching, poked through the soil around him. They didn't flail. They didn't reach. They waited. The thing wearing his mother's face stepped toward him, its feet leaving no impression in the dirt. Its eyes were still hollow, but now they shimmered, not with light but with motion, like a storm inside glass. We are always watching, it said, even when you close your eyes. Caleb took a trembling step back. The fingers in the ground didn't grab him. They just flexed, slowly, in unison. I didn't call you, he stammered. I didn't summon anything. You remembered, the thing said. Remembered what? Its smile widened impossibly. That you are not the first Ryden to feed the soil. With that, it vanished. No wind, no smoke, just gone. And the hands sank back beneath the dirt, as though they had never been there. Caleb didn't remember running, but he found himself at home, collapsed on the porch, gasping for breath. His hands were scratched, there was dirt beneath his fingernails, and dried blood where his palm had torn on a tree branch. His mother opened the door, shocked. What happened? Were you in the woods? I need salt, he blurted. What? More salt, all of it, now. She hesitated. Caleb, you're scaring me. They're watching me. His voice cracked. They're here. Who? He couldn't answer, because now even the truth felt insane. That night, he sealed every room with salt, windowsills, door frames, even the vents. He left none for chance. He even placed some on his chest before lying down. His mother didn't protest. She just watched him silently, like a person watching someone drown without knowing how to swim. And still they came. But not with whispers. With eyes. It started with the mirror. At 3:09 a.m., Caleb awoke to the sound of glass cracking. He sat up slowly. The mirror across the room had a long, jagged line splitting down the center. He approached it, flashlight trembling in his hand. There was something behind the glass. A face. No, not a face. Faces. Layered, stacked, watching, not blinking. And he knew instantly they could see him through it. He threw the mirror down. It shattered into hundreds of shards. The eyes vanished, but only for that night. By the next evening, they had found other ways, reflections. Any reflective surface, his phone screen, the TV when it was off, the doorknob when the light hit just right, they were always watching. He saw them again in the puddle beside the sink. Two figures standing behind him, gone when he turned. And still no one else noticed. He began drawing them, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. Something pushed his hand, something guided the pencil. Dozens of sketches filled his notebook, warped faces, too many eyes, mouths open in soundless screams. Some looked like his grandfather, others looked like him. He returned to Agatha. The old woman was pacing in a circle outside her shack, muttering in a language Caleb didn't understand. Her feet were bare, bleeding. "You opened the mirror," she hissed when she saw him. "I didn't mean to." Intent means nothing to the watchers. You saw them. Now they see you. What do they want? She laughed bitterly. Not your body, not your soul, just your sight. My sight? They feed on those who witness. They collect eyes, memories, visions. The more you see them, the more they become real. Caleb trembled. How do I stop them? You can't. You have to blind them. How? Cover every reflection, break every mirror, destroy anything that holds their gaze. That night, Caleb blacked out every screen in the house. The TV, the tablet, his phone, all gone. He hung blankets over mirrors, over the microwave, over the polished doorknobs. Still, he felt them, watching. When he closed his eyes, he saw theirs. When he blinked, they moved. When he dreamt, they whispered things he didn't understand, but remembered anyway. One day, he went into the attic. He hadn't been there since he was a child. Dust floated in thick beams of sunlight, the smell of mold and forgotten years thick in the air. And there, in a corner beneath a broken window, was an old wooden box, his grandfather's. He opened it carefully. Inside were items wrapped in cloth: bones, dried herbs, black candles, a cracked photograph, and a note. If they come through the eyes, seal them with blood. Beneath that, a scalpel. Caleb didn't touch it. Not yet. But the next night, the eyes were inside the house. He woke to the sound of his bedroom door creaking open. He froze. A shape moved past his door. Then another. Then a third. No footsteps, just movement. He waited. They didn't enter his room, but he could hear them breathing, like dry paper rubbing together. He lasted until morning. Then he went back to the attic. He took the scalpel. He carried it in his pocket. And every time he passed a mirror or any reflection, he whispered, "You don't get my eyes." Then came the worst dream yet. He was in the graveyard again, but this time all the graves were open, and inside each a version of him, screaming, blind, blood running from empty sockets, and the watchers stood in a circle, masks over their faces pointing. One will see, all will suffer. He woke up to blood on his pillow. His nose had bled during the night. Or maybe not from his nose. He checked the mirror carefully. Both eyes still there, but darker somehow, as if something had moved behind them. He called Jonah, told him everything. Jonah didn't laugh. He didn't question. He simply said, "Come over, bring the mirror." What? The one that cracked. Why? Because mine just did the same thing.